Garage. My name is Colby Dean. Today looking at a 2003 Pontiac Grand Am. This is the V6 3.4 GT model. Today we are changing the compressor, condenser, accumulator, orfice tube, basically redoing the whole AC system minus the evap. I'm going to show you here what we got going on. I've already started taking all the plastics off. Took the plastic off this front cover area here, which are those two laying there. I also have the plastic removed from this wheel well. There is your accumulator under the wheel well. Here are those two plastic pieces, just a couple 10 millimeters and some clips. You can use a pair of side cuts and a 10 mil. And compressor is down here in the front. It's going to come out this way in the wheel well. Let's go ahead and get cracking from here. Alright, now we're over here on the passenger side. Down below the alternator is the automatic belt tensioner. Go ahead and stick your 3/8 ratchet onto that tensioner. There's a square at the bottom. So you get your wrench on there. Push it over. Slip your belt loose. I slid it right off of this smooth pulley here so you don't have to fight the teeth. Now we have our belt loose. We'll go from there. Alright, here at our accumulator, we have one 13 millimeter on the back side of this line here, which is a which is a nut. Go ahead and take that one off. Keep in mind my lines are already empty right now. If you have Freon in your lines still, you do not want to be doing this, or you'll get a face full of Freon. Make sure your system is evacuated. This car had a leak, so it was already empty. There's my first line. My second line, I'm going to grab a couple adjustable wrenches. Get these on here like so. Pop that loose. And you can spin that line out as well, and that will come out once we remove this bracket. Alright, we got 10 millimeter back on this bracket here behind it. Spin that loose. And there we have our accumulator, ready to be changed. Make sure when reinstalling this accumulator you change your O-ring here on this line, and you have 2 rubber O-rings on that line as well. Keep that in mind. Make sure you have those with your kit before you start. Okay, as far as this condenser goes, I'm going to start by going ahead and just pulling that front bumper cover off. I've already got this wheel well removed. We should just have one 8 or 10 mil right up under here, which there is. I'm going to pull the other side wheel well off and try to get that cover off. That way you can see a little more what's going on. Okay, on this bumper cover, I removed this driver's side wheel well, which is right here. I had about, I don't know, 5 or 6 10 millimeters and some snaps. There is 3 10 millimeter bolts right underneath each side here, left and right. And then once you get those removed, there is also 2 more little clips right up under here that are holding this bottom part on. Get those off. There's your bumper. Alright, on this front cushion here, we have 4 13 millimeters on the back side. There's some U-bolts in there holding this in place. Take those 4 13s off. get something. What we're going to try to do is take the condenser out from the front here and drop it right down through this hole. We're going to give it a shot. Alright, on this lower condenser line, grab your 13 millimeter again, and go ahead and take that screw out, bolt out, excuse me. Okay, we have that line disconnected. Now I'm going to move up to the top and we're going to unhook that line. Alright, up top here, I'm going to first grab my 13 millimeter and take this top nut off the condenser. And then I'm going to grab my 7 millimeter and unhook this bracket holding this line. I've unclipped my pressure sensor here. And then we're going to grab our 15 millimeter and a long extension, reach down to this compressor, break that bolt loose on those lines. Once again, 15 millimeter, 13, 7. Once you have that bolt out, carefully slide those lines off. Now basically you can pull these lines out completely and flush them out, or flush them as they lay right there. That line's shooting right down, sticking out the wheel well, or the connecting into the accumulator, so you can pull this whole thing out, flush it with your AC flush. And a quick little note here, in this line on the passenger side that went to the bottom of the condenser, that is the line that has the orfice tube filter up inside of it. You can't really see, you can barely see it in there, but we're going to pull that orfice tube out and put a fresh one in there as well. Alright, up front here I was able to take a little 1/4" drive with a 10 millimeter to swivel, and I snuck in here, got that 10 millimeter out, and I snuck in here, got that 10 millimeter out, which is holding the condenser to the radiator. Then you come up top here on this top line, there is a 7 millimeter bolt that I used a little 7 millimeter wrench to get off on the top of this line to break it loose. Then what we can do is there's a couple slides, so you hold the radiator down and you slide the condenser up off the tab, and it sits in. And then I'm hoping that we're going to be able to slide this thing off the bottom here. What we're going for. So I'm just going to put this a little bit of machining out. Let's get that messed up first, maybe. Break those radiator brackets loose so that we can push the radiator forward a little bit, and then we'll have some room to get that out of there. There we go. Now we'll get the new one back up in there. Okay, from the wheel well here, I'm able to get my 15 socket wrench. There's 3 bolts on this compressor. There's one, the back one on top I got from up top with just a 15 wrench. Go ahead and break those loose. You also have one wire connector on here which has 2 tabs on each side. So you need to pop that out. Which is this guy right here, which I've popped out. Now we just have those 3 bolts, and the compressor should fall down. Tuck your belt up out of the way. You don't even have to take it off the other wheels. And take those bolts out and we'll drop that compressor down. Alright, we got our 3 bolts out. The compressor's dropped down. I'm just going to grab her. Take him right out through there. There we have it. Alright, now that we've got everything loose, we're going to grab a can of AC flush, and what we're going to do with this is you take this and you blow it through all the lines. You stick that end on the line, you blow it through, blow the cleaner through there, then you're going to want to hit it with compressed air after you're done. Don't forget to take this orifice tube out first before you do that. And go ahead and blow your lines out, get everything clean, and then we'll start reinstallation. Alright, we've got our lines all flushed out. We bolted our new compressor into place, 3 15 millimeters. Make sure you torque those down. And also make sure you connect the wire connector there on the clutch. So the compressor is basically done. You want to make sure you leave these caps in here until you get the lines in and get the compressor in place so you don't lose any oil. Next, I'm going to go around and change all my O-rings and seals and make sure those are all fresh and clean. And then we're going to start sneaking that condenser back up in this front end. Alright, on this condenser, I was able to push this passenger side of the radiator back far enough to sneak my top line in there. Now I'm going to get my plastic back up in here and get these 2 10 millimeters put back in the radiator there, and then we're going to zip the radiator back down tight and hook up our lines. Alright, down here on that bottom line of that condenser, once again, don't forget to change that orifice tube. You see the crimp there, it's slid up in that tube. Grab a pair of needle nose, and you'll see there's my old orifice. Very dirty. Make sure you get that new one put in there after you flush the lines out and you're putting your new seals in. And we'll go from there. Okay, we got all of our lines hooked up, everything's oiled, got new seals, our compressor's in place. We still need to put the belt on. I did have to pull the stud out of the old accumulator with that star key there. Let's see, that was a 7 millimeter star key. And now that we have all of our lines hooked up, I've checked everything, the condenser, the compressor. Now we're going to hook up our high side and low side on our gauges. Make sure all your lines or fittings are tight. Make sure your lines are wide open. I'm hooked up to my vacuum pump here, and we're going to pull the vacuum down on these gauges here. You'll see they're going negative, and we're going to let this run for about an hour. In about 15 minutes, I'm going to stop it and make sure we're holding the vacuum, which checks for leaks. And at that point, if it's holding, I'll continue vacuuming for the rest of the hour, and then we can go ahead and start recharging. In the meantime, I'm going to start getting this bumper put back together and do as much as I can while that's vacuuming out. Alright, we've been vacuuming about 15 minutes. What we're going to do is we're going to turn our gauges both off while the pump is still running. I'm going to click my vacuum pump off. Everything's off, and what you want to do is you want to watch those gauges and make sure they stay with that negative vacuum. Let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes and make sure you don't have any leaks. Then we'll continue to vacuum out our system. Quick note here, orifice tube goes in this way with the small filter screen going in first. And the end has the long filter screen. It's like that. Alright, we've been pulling the vacuum on this car for about an hour. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to turn off my low and high side to hold that vacuum. I'm going to shut my pump off. I'm going to do one more check on the vacuum, make sure I don't have any leaks. So I'm going to let this sit for about 5 minutes and make sure it holds that negative pressure. Alright, we're holding negative pressure on our system. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unhook my yellow line off my pump. I'm going to hook that to my can of Freon. I'm going to make sure that can of Freon is powered up, pierce it, pull that back out. Now we have Freon up in this line. You want to take this yellow line here and just loosen it for a few seconds, let the air out. There's air in that line from the vacuum. So let the air out and make sure that's full of 134A. Now that yellow line's full of Freon, my vacuum's pulled. I'm going to leave the high side off for the remainder of this filling, and I am just going to open up the low side. I'm just going to release the Freon into the system. I'm going to let that sit and take as much as it can from the can pressure for a minute, and then we'll start the car up and turn the AC on and start charging up. Alright, this has been sitting for a while. About 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and start the car. Make sure all your lines are away from the fan. Make sure that line is away from that belt there. Double check everything. Got your belt on, your wire connections are hooked up, your sensor here on your top line. Make sure everything is clear before you start it. Start the car up, turn it to max AC, and as you see the clutch kicked on, it's drawing down here now. This can is starting to get cold. Give it a few shakes. My pressure's coming up here on my high side. I'm at 100 on the high. I got my low side wide open, clutch is on. It's drawing the Freon in from this can. I'm going to let it take that whole can in. We're just going to keep that low side open. It's filling up. Make sure your belt's on correctly. It's not off on any grooves. We'll let that draw down. High side's up to about 125, so it's climbing, that's good. You always get an accurate reading when you shut your low off. It'll tell you right where you're at. It's showing 30 pounds right now. Shut it off. It's showing 30 right now, which is getting close to where we need to be. Check inside. Feel the air. Alright guys, we got her charged up. AC is running now. It's nice and cold on the inside. I'm about 200 on the high, about 35 on the low. Hot day today, I might have had a little more. Clutch is running, Freon, everything's good to go. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And have a great day.